They were doing some tales from Warwickshire in the 1980s when I started dealing, and I was under the wing of my father, who had an antique shop in Warwickshire. And on one occasion he took me to Birmingham on a house call. He had a phone call from a customer. The customer said, "Can you please come to Birmingham, to Edgbaston, to look at some glass?" So my father drove to Birmingham. I went with him for the ride, probably school holidays or something, or weekend maybe, and we drove to a formerly salubrious part of Birmingham which had been changed by subdivision effectively, and there was a formerly very grand townhouse with a small front garden, which was in what was now a suburb becoming increasingly more shabby and undesirable. So we went into this house, and there was a gentleman there, probably 70 or 80 years old, and he had a moustache and was smart and stood bolt upright, and he showed us into the house, put us in the parlour, into the lounge, and into the reception room. We sat down, and it was a house full of worn out, slightly drab possessions, ordinary possessions. And he said that he was a soldier from India. He was a British Indian soldier. He was a white English man who had been born out there, and he had served in the Indian Army before independence. So his time was up out there in 1948, and he came back to England, and probably felt slightly marooned and lost. And I think his wife died quite a long time ago, had died quite a long time previously, and had lived alone for quite a long time. So there's a very sad story behind it. And my father was in the army at the very beginning of his life, and obviously connected with this person. So what happened? The story is about what he was selling, and it's also about how we were served a cup of tea, because when we sat down in this room, he said, "Would you like a cup of tea?" We said yes, and he went off to the kitchen to make us a cup of tea. And when you're a guest in someone's house, you say, "Yes, we'll have a cup of tea, please, thank you very much." So he came back with 2 Coke cups from a McDonald's, or the equivalent in those days of Wimpy. And they were cardboard cups with tea in, and he said, "I'm sorry that we're using these cups, because I want to save the cut glass, and I want to save the bone china." So me and my father were looking at each other, and we knew the situation, because we had seen it before. People do that. They keep their best pottery and crockery and glass for special occasions. But the sad thing was, we'd gone to this house to buy the glass and the bone china, and there weren't going to be any more special times for this person, and he was going to move and didn't have the space. And we went through this very sad experience of watching this gentleman bring box after box of cut glass out, which had been given to him and his wife as wedding presents, and none of it had ever been used or taken out the boxes. There was 26 sherry, 26 highball, 26 lowball, 26 champagne flute, 26 champagne boats, cocktail glasses, martini glasses, you name it. He had all the cut glass, cocktail dish, dessert dishes with feet on, all cut, all named Webb crystal, I think it was at the time, which was quite valuable. And he had kept all that stuff for 50 years, perhaps, never used it, and had spent his life drinking out of takeaway cups. And he got to near the end of his life, and he'd sold this collection. And I thought it was a disgraceful, sad thing. I was very upset about it, and I still remember it, obviously, all these years later. Utterly ridiculous. And now cut glass in England is not sought after. Apart from the trophies and certain big items, the decanters and the ship's decanters and the sherry glasses are sold now in auctions in boxes. They're not wanted. Yet there are people who still get them for wedding presents, and they keep them in the boxes and until they're so old that they need to sell them and never use them. So that's the story, really. It's just a story about the cut glass that was never used, the wedding presents, and a story about the paper cups. Thank you.